works part-time.
Part-time stuff. Yeah.
Once a year retreat where they go to the coast and do like planning, kind of like our,
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's kind of
I
like
got
that. So,
there. We're going to talk about the retreat. Give us some money. Campaign.
Yeah, that's.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call to order our joint Wood Village City Council meeting and Urban Renewal Agency meeting. If someone would like to read the land acknowledgement for me, please.
I will.
Thank you.
To have a copy.
Oh, look at you.
Perfect.
One. And over here.
Yeah.
The Chinookan peoples, known as the Clackamas and Cascades, are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechockley was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of these Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. And we are honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you. If you would join me to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Any citizen comments on non-agenda items?
Not this evening, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move the consent calendar. Any questions on those items?
It'll be an excellent Easter event.
I like the flyer. Was that Caroline?
Yeah.
Hearing no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I.
Aye. That calendar passes. Do we have our legislative update presentation?
One of our guests is actually,
I just texted his chief of staff to ask him.
yeah, so we actually don't have our, the senator just yet.
Okay. Do we want to move on to a separate item or?
Well, I had to get my.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the discussion of urban renewal agency incentives.
Thank you, Mayor. Just give me a moment, pop open that presentation. Okay. Well, thanks everyone, especially Urban Renewal members, for meeting with us this evening. We want to talk over some very high level concepts of what's going on with the Greyhound Park property. For those that don't know what the Greyhound Park is, because it's actually been demoed for quite some time and defunct for over 2 decades. It's that area in the town center behind Fred Meyer Coles, the 25 some odd vacant acres. This is what it was in its heyday, over 10,000 guests and what have you, but no longer today. Okay, so in 2015, the Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ronde purchased that site, and they probably had a lot of reasons for doing it. They also have an economic development arm. They have obviously their gaming arm and just investments for all their endowments and programs. So Over the several years, the Grand Ron explored a lot of various options, up to and including putting the land into federal trust for the purposes of gaming or a casino. When we met with them this past May, they said, no, casinos is not going to work. A lot of traffic impacts and just other changing economies and things of that sort. So they put together an updated highest and best use economic development analysis. They had done one, it was probably 2017-ish, shortly after they bought the site, of what are viable uses for this site. Well, things have changed since then, but not surprising, what are some of the highest and best uses? Multi-unit housing, so, apartments, but there's still a market for some commercial or mixed-use style development with a potential for some kind of entertainment/hotel. And entertainment, I think we can draw a very wide brush of what entertainment is. I mean, I think it's everything from like an arcade to bowling alley to more premium level experiences. So also in 2017, the city actually updated its entire master plan for the town center area. So not just the Greyhound Park site here, but the whole town center for its further development and build out. So what was done with the cooperation of the Grand Ron during that time is this was more bookmarked for mixed use, but with an entertainment focus, with a little bit of housing and just some general commercial. Now, this is the concept regulatory diagram, so there's a lot of push and pull and flexibility in it. But for some of these street networks and the plaza spaces, they can be shifted, between 50 and 100 feet or in slightly locations, but those are like the main features to, create some sort of neighborhood blocks and, access and public amenities. Well, also going on very recently, as you may know, we're talking about fire and fire service in our region, in our community, and there is a gap in fire stations for this area specifically. And we've been talking with, it was first with Clackamas Fire 1, then with Gresham and with the Grand Ron about could we lease, an acre-ish kind of in this northwest corner off 223rd for a fire station, because that really fills where the gap is very nicely with great access right onto 223rd. We've got some maps that show the improvements that makes. Grand Ron says, yep, would we love to have more, high-use commercial here? Sure. But Wood Village are a good partner, and we understand why it needs to be here, not on the east end. So we'd be willing to lease that to you for the purposes of a fire station. I'll get a little more details of timelines in a few more slides, but that's been a more recent development of putting a fire station here. Also, for council, you saw this at your meeting in December, but for urban renewal, when we told the sheriff's office, got word of maybe a fire station here, they said, well, things may be shifting with Troutdale, maybe shifting with Fairview. We lease all these different spaces all over the county. It'd be nice to have a consolidated, condensed facility. City, would you be opposed if we kind of had a public safety campus there? I'm like, we're not opposed, but it's not our site. So now we've leaked in the Grand Ron with them as well. And the Grand Ron was actually very interested in that as well, because there's a lot of jobs, a lot of people could really help feed the commercial side of development. So up here in the blue would be kind of designated public safety campus space. Now, not all this isn't like a building footprint, but just, some of it's parking, open space, circulation, and building. So this would be a public safety campus. This yellow block would be the multi-unit or multifamily housing. Again, this isn't the building footprint, but kind of the use area. Connection, there's plaza space, parking for then traditional kind of commercial. And then this was just kind of reserved for the Grand Ron. Maybe they do entertainment, maybe it's hotel, maybe it's a mix of some other stuff. So we've had several meetings now with the Grand Ron and the sheriff's office, and now some of the county business people about what it might take for this to happen. As you can imagine, there's a lot of pieces that have to fall in place kind of quickly for that to happen. So this is more of maybe an alternative concept that takes at least the bulk of the county out of that equation, where we still have, our fire station over here. But instead of all this being a public safety campus, it's an additional multi-unit housing. But it brings back a concept we had talked with the Grand Ron about year and a half ago, especially on this north end, Could the ground floor tenant be like a big community space, a cafe gymatorium, so maybe some outdoor rec space that ties into our new wetland park? We haven't had a chance to really dive into too much detail at the ground run on that because we had a meeting, like I said, about year and a half ago, interested in the concept, but with the public safety campus, that took that away. But I think we might want to just revisit that if the public safety campus can't come together just because of all the county processes and timelines and budgets. Because we were interested still, even if it was going to be the public safety campus, how could we get community space as part of that? So our interest would be essentially, get community center, classroom space with preschool for all, and just bringing those, what we've heard for a long time, community amenities to the community. So for timelines, the Grand Ron is working essentially now to try to put together an updated master plan / development plan for the entire site. They kind of want to work on it through this year. Is it going to be done maybe, late 26, early 27? I think that's the rough timeline they're trying to operate under. So they kind of want to know what's going to go where and how they can, parcel things out. Are they going to lease some of it, develop it all themselves? Kind of work through all that this calendar year. For the fire station, they want kind of a general confirmation this springtime with then like actually signed leases by summertime. If it were just us in Wood Village, we could calendar that and work that, but this involves Gresham since they're still operating the service, the other cities since we have to share on this cost. So we're actually working with Gresham, the other cities, have a meeting this Friday just about this new station, which is being called Station 77. And kind of what is it? Because we keep calling it a temp station. Not that, but the buildings itself, you don't think of it like a big fancy brick and mortar fire station, but it's, maybe a steel building with a manufactured home. And that may be there for 8 or 10 or 12 years, but it's a safe place for firefighters, a safe place for equipment, and a nice place to respond out of. So when we say temporary, that's why we say temporary, but then the idea is, great, we've solved this regional problem to fire, and they can, that regional problem or solution will then dictate which stations get improved, which stations may be relocated, how this one could be then enhanced to be more of a permanent station. So I think we'll know more certainly this week of how viable that is, and then we just be working that with the Grand Ron. So just reminding everyone just a little bit about urban renewal, because it's been a while since we've met, and specifically since like a big project like this. So urban renewal was created in 2010 to really support the strategic investments in targeted areas of our community. Urban renewal will say blight. I like to say just, needs enhancements or there's opportunities for community enhancements. The agency's done actually a lot of work today. We had the errata fencing, the byway, this building, our crosswalks on Halsey, the park restroom and Gateway. When I say Gateway signs, it paid for the one by the freeway, but we used the same design for the one up the hill. So it's done both, active redevelopment as well as those community enhancements that you really want to see out of urban renewal. Now, what's left is actually about $7 million left total in urban renewal's maximum indebtedness of $11,750,000. We say there's about 6.5 for projects because you still needs to be money to, pay for the audit, to admin the agency. So when you look at like what's in the bucket for projects, it's about 6.5. And in your packet, you saw various attachments of how that money can be split out and spent, but essentially you could put it into infrastructure, direct incentives, and then just kind of the public amenities or public elements. I also wanted to point out, great, we all know about the Greyhound Park site, and that is an opportunity site, I think, for the entire community and region. It's also worth the question, well, what other sites are there, Greg? So if we're sitting right here, there's a vacant site essentially almost across the street. We still call it Vista View because that was a development about 2020, 2021 that it never got off the ground. It actually had an approved incentive development, but it couldn't get financed. So it's acre and change, not flat, a little tricky. This right here, it's that blue gas station on Halsey. At some point that will develop, but but we don't know when, and there's nothing in the works. And I just circled these a couple kind of off of errata. They're more infill opportunities than full on. I mean, this one site here is fully vacant, but it's kind of a funky, almost a flag lot. This one's just a little underdeveloped. And again, right here, there's just some opportunity space. That's really it in terms of like vacant space in the city within urban renewal. If you think again, well, crosswalks on Halsey, the last one that we would want to do actually splits between Wood Village and Fairview. So the other half isn't in Wood Village. Not to say there aren't some things we could do, you know, on Wood Village Boulevard or Errata, but in terms of like big redevelopment projects, that's kind of it. So when we want to talk about urban renewal, this site in the Grand Ron, you know, these are things we could do. And again, we're not necessarily looking for, okay, yep, let's put together a development agreement right now. But this is more about here are the buckets that we could use to help provide, you know, a carrot or incentive to, hey, Grand Ron, we really want to see these things out of this project. So if, for those that remember the byway, that were here for that, it was kind of twofold because the city owned the land plus it's an urban renewal. So we could say, hey, out of this sale and redevelopment, we need X, Y, and Z. Most of it was the commercial frontage and a mix of apartments, like from studio to the 3-bedroom. So things we could do is when I say the new Main Street, that's this section right through here. In the concept regulatory diagram, it's the template is think of like a nice boulevard, wide sidewalk, street lighting, street trees. That needs to be built. There's going to be STCs and building permits, probably some water and sewer work. Those are pretty standard urban renewal incentives. But also, if we go back up to the concept regulatory diagram, I mean, we do have plaza space, pedestrian connections, gateways. What could those be? What could those look like? Especially if we're thinking, could we do something, if it's more of this style development, could we do something up here for maybe some outdoor recreation space that ties into the park for the community, you know, public spaces? And there's just direct incentives. Again, if we're looking at that community center aspect of like a mixed use development, and could we, you know, potentially even leverage urban renewal funds to get state funds, maybe county funding again for preschool for all. So it's really, how much would you want to incentivize to get what out of this site? So, again, these are kind of the two very high level concepts we're working with. They're not master plans, they're not any of that. And the Grand Ron doesn't know I built this one, but it just seems like the public safety campus, you know, it could fall apart, not for the fault of any one party. It's just a lot of stuff has to come together quickly. And just looking at the highest and best use and talking with the Grand Ron, and the previous thought is, yeah, and some more housing, but adding that community center, the community features could make that a nice benefit, not just for the site as a whole, but for the community. So other questions to ask yourself as we'll have a discussion here in a few moments of, okay, if not this site, okay, we have $6.5 million for projects, what else could they go towards? There's also the question of, well, maybe we don't need urban renewal anymore. We'll just let stuff develop as it develops, and the other taxing jurisdictions could have that resource back a bit early. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're still working with Gresham and the Grand Ron for that temporary site, well, temporary station at a more permanent site. I think we'll see over the next couple of months the true feasibility of that public safety campus as the county meets more internally and sees what it can and can't do. Staff is meeting with the Grand Ron fairly regularly in communication with them. They also plan like a council to council gathering. They said spring, because I think what they want to do is bring the council out here, walk the site so their council can see it again, get refreshed with it. They'll probably even have some high level concepts like this to explore. And it'd be nice to be able to have, again, high level concepts of like, Grand Ron, we'd love to help invest in this project. And here's what we're willing to do, and here's what we need out of that. So I will now open it up for kind of some general thoughts, questions, general direction, anything I can help answer or clarify.
As Greg mentioned, the floor is open for questions, comments, all the above.
How many years are left in the agency?
We predicted what about 7 to 8 before. So that's the other thing. So right now we're still making payments on the bond we took out for like the city hall for this project. There are two more payments on that. So in year 3, we'll actually be receiving as an agency a lot of resource that will need to go into a project. So if nothing else built was developed inside the next 7 or so years, the agency would have received the $11.7 million. So when you say how many years are left, well, if the Grand Ron actually builds something big and quickly, it could actually be over sooner because it would have received all the proceeds. So it's really the 11.7 is what ends it. It's just you kind of ballpark it at like that 20-year time, but
20-year
we
time.
started in 2010, which wasn't the best idea.
And then, I'm sorry, I'm out of practice. I've been gone for a long time, but, change property ratio, damage that the county did to the agency.
Mhm.
There was a time where we said that to do the debt service, we might be able to do some small projects, but nothing really big. Do we have, or are we expecting, the revenue to be able to pay for up to 25% of the value of something like this development out in the public benefit?
So with that, it would be likely we'd need to take out a new bond. And we'd bond it on the future proceeds. So, if you're say, do we have the cash in the bank? We have actually some cash in the bank to maybe start something, but realistically, let's just say you all say we're kind of comfortable with maybe 6 million towards this project, and you could divide it up between different things. We would bond that 6 million.
And I know that they're probably, that they're going to determine this in the highest best use study, but I'd like to hear just staff's opinion. When we've talked about developing it in the past, when family entertainment came up, the developers would always say not enough people lived here, not enough roofs, hard to say, but that's what they always said. Do we feel like with particularly the development that's occurred in Fairview and Troutdale with all the multifamily that we're approaching?
That's
feasibility?
partially why the Grand Ron updated its highest and best use, because so many things have changed. When you look past 5 or 7 years, there's been a lot more roofs, and income has actually changed dramatically. A lot of the newer people to our community have a higher income. So it's not necessarily like all of our community members are faring better. We still know there's a fair number of lower income people, but a lot of our newer people to the region especially have a higher income. It is nice to note that because we've had some other jobs and job opportunities, income levels have increased as a whole, but that I don't want to make the illusion like our communities aren't struggling, because we still know they are, but the overall averaging of your economic circle has improved.
Good. And then, sorry, just a couple more things. If a fire station were built there, and I'm sorry I didn't make it to the meeting the other night, I did do the survey. Do you feel like that might change sort of the negotiations that are going on? Should we have our own district, remain with Gresham, or?
I don't think so. The big part of the conversations going on at the Forest City and District 10 level are we need to stop thinking about this as 6 1/3 stations, and this needs to be 8 1/3 stations to serve that region. Whether it's then it becomes a new district, part of District 10, or consolidates into something else, we'll massage that, but the system needs to be the 8 1/3.
And then just a comment, you mentioned 2017 and now the highest best use studies. It just feels like they've done more than 2. And so I was just glad to see that a lot of things that could potentially happen, they're going to have to pull the trigger quickly, because it seems like, we could just as easily end up with 2 years from now doing yet another highest best use study to find out.
They've just talked with us also, like they've had this site for over a decade, and it needs to start generating positive economic opportunities for their members and for their endowment funds. So, and when they've walked the site, like, this is a great site. I'm like, we know.
Yeah. We live here, we like it. Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity.
Others?
just to clarify, Greg, there's not a time limit on the urban renewal. It's the money.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what we do tie though, or at least we did. This site could be maybe a little different because it's volume and what we might get for public benefit, but we'd always tie like that direct incentive agreement to, it's up to 20% of the return, which is then the life of the agency kind of dictates that. So there is a bit of a push and pull, but we pretty much now know like what's left in the bucket. So we can kind of use that as the framework in which to operate for the incentive amount left, or development incentive or improvement incentive.
Again, I agree. I'm a little rusty on the numbers too. So you might have to remind me about the accounting structure here, but is this bond accruing like a substantial amount of interest?
So
that we're waiting for
that's what's nice about our current one, which is probably why I wouldn't say refinance it now, because it's a really low interest rate, at least comparatively.
I think the interest rate we got was like between 2.2 and 2.3. So yes, we would not,
hang on to that.
we're not gonna, we have two big payments left and one small payment. And so we wouldn't want to refinance.
Yeah, we wouldn't. So let's just say in a year from now, ground's like ready to hit the ground running and we need to help turn the dirt. That's a new bond. I wouldn't want to refinance the remaining into the new bond at a higher interest.
So it seems that this proposed project, if it were to work out, could actually be the best value for this investment for the homeowners in the area.
I think, yeah, for the community as a whole. I mean, when you look at kind of other sites, not that they're not good sites and not that they wouldn't benefit from positive redevelopment. When you think catalyst site or community changing event or shaping, this is that site. Having the blue gas station gone is something of more aesthetically pleasing and community, maybe there's some shops or housing. That's wonderful. This could really actually change the shape and face of our city and the region.
It could bring in other opportunities. It's the type of thing that is a magnet for other things.
That's how I think staff views this potential.
And the other sites, I mean, they're ultimately owned for other people that just aren't interested in doing anything with them at this point.
Correct. It's almost, so an example is Riverwood South here, for example, was built in urban renewal. It really didn't get much of an incentive at all because the board at the time said, you're going to build that whether there's an incentive or not. Versus could we incentivize something remarkable here that benefits community, not just now, but decades from now? Like a legacy piece.
Greg, I'd like to see the fire and the sheriff's department together in the public safety plot.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a reason why the county or the sheriff doesn't want to do that?
Sheriff loves it. And I want to be real careful here because it's been a few meetings. I don't want to speak for the county or pretend I understand their business processes. But you have a lot of departments in the county. So you got the sheriff's office and they're in this box over here. And then you've got their business office and then you've got their lands and other business people over here. And you have to have all of them on the same page agreeing that, yes, you're currently sheriff's office paying X amount for all your spaces today. What is the lease on this going to cost plus the cost of, are you building the building? Are you, is it they build it, you lease it? What does that cost? What's that cost now? What's that cost 50 years from now? Also, not just the best budget year for the county. When at our last meeting, they just said, we don't have 5 million laying around for a new building. I assume they dropped a zero from that because you're not building much for 5 million. So it just may seem like the timeline may not work between the various county entities that need to come together and agree upon, here's what we can afford to do, and here's what we'd want it to look like. From it, like if they started this a couple years ago, like, oh, that might work out really well. And I'm just not sure the Grand Ron is willing to wait a few more years to see if it could happen versus they know at least the housing side of that plays today. And the report says, yeah, it's the multi-unit housing pays for itself and actually helps stimulate the rest of like the commercial stuff. I think we would just like to see, cool, there's housing. Let's get some community benefit out of that, because it's really our last site to do that with. And I think that would be the right partner to do it with.
Yeah, and a great location right next to a park too. So, yeah.
If I, I'm not sure that we couldn't come up, I mean, if we had a drawing board here, that we couldn't do anything better than what this potentially could do. Public safety, if that can come to fruition, that only improves our communities, all 4 of our cities and East County. We definitely need a fire department if we're going to reduce response times, whether it's a district or whether it's we got to have a fire department to help our citizens and reduce the response times. The commercial, of course, you got to make money, and the tribe knows that, and they know how to do that. They're experts at it. The partnering with the tribe, and a lot of us been through this and still with them. They're just a superb partner. They have been so willing to listen, invite us down, and talk about what their priorities are in a very forthright manner. And from what certainly I have seen, and I think the council agrees, that I'm not sure we could find a better partner to embark on something as potentially, as Greg has said, the catalyst for East County. The other thing I like about this is that I think it creates opportunities for partnerships with people beyond who we might be building this with. The public space, I think, is real important. I think we need more community space that people can reasonably use, have access to. Whether it's a meeting room, whether it's an auditorium, whether it's a place that we can have some fine arts events take place. But that kind of a community benefit, I think, could be possible here. I'm thinking of Mount Hood Community College. Maybe there's a way that Mount Hood Community College could benefit from this. But I think there's ways to look at other partners in this. Potentially, when we look at other partners, there's other ways to leverage money through grants. As we look at how we're going to help prepare this for the community. So I certainly, this staff has brought us a report here that we've been watching, and the tribe's got a timeline. And I think it's important to send a signal that we're ready to play this game and we're ready to get into it. And be serious about how this property, this 25 acres, gets developed that best benefits Wood Village and East County.
I mean, when you said, leveraging partners, leveraging resource, I mean, it's feasible. You turn R6 maybe into 12 or 15 with the different funding buckets. When you think Mount Hood Community College, maybe there's preschool for all classrooms in the daytime, then some adult continuing education in the evening time. It's Play East World headquarters can do year-round programming. I think what I'm hearing is it seems like there's a lot of interest in helping incentivize that, however that may look. Like, okay, we pay for the road because Grand Run, you're going to build that space and we'll figure out what that may look like or mean. But something along the lines of like, yeah, the public benefit is important. Is like, capture that?
I mean, I've had this conversation with Greg, and I think, again, this space has been vacant for a long
Over
time.
20 years.
Over 20 years. And as it stood before of a destination in East County, I think this can bring that back. Understanding that, neighbors to our south are also looking at potential, what does those sites look like? it can just add more to our region. I think, there's been a lot of discussion of what this could be, but this actually looks tangible. And I think it checks a lot of the boxes for the public's need, for the city of Wood Village. I think 2019 was the last, or the byway was like the last, housing built, and there's really no more space to create more. And this can really hit a lot of those spaces while bringing an opportunity for community gatherings. So I think again, it's really, the Grand Ron has not only looked at their benefit, but I think looks at the benefit of the city of Wood Village, and this really hits a lot of those needs there.
I think, either concept, I think, is a wonderful win for Wood Village and the community, because we were excited about this too. The whole sheriff's office right there in the city. Again, the opportunity to maybe build a cafegimatorium, which can double as community space, some extra classroom space, or just kind of more purpose-built as part of a housing one. I think there's reason to be excited about both. And I think the Grand Ron likes both.
And as we're exploring both, options and potential funding opportunities, let's not forget our legislative partners. This concept is very beneficial for East County to have this type of joint facility of fire and public safety. We have a conversation of seeing, could something work within, almost push too hard in a short time period. But, again, I think having conversations where we really start figuring out what can happen and what be feasible, could the tribes see that conversation and be like, what, we can probably hold off a little bit on this. We can look at developing the rest and seeing, is there enough partners willing to invest in something of this nature. So
One potentially more stupid question before my part of the evening ends. Does the economic development assistance have to necessarily go to the tribes? Could we increase the likelihood of the county being willing to build the public safety campus by saying that the $2 million in economic development assistance can be used for the construction of the police station?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways. When Seth and I looked at how the funds are broken up to get to that 6.5 million, okay, maybe we don't build or incentivize part of the building, but, we did the roadway improvement. So now county, you don't have to pay for that, or Grand Ron, you don't have to pay for that. So then it's money to go towards those other things. So I think there's ways to trade off, infrastructure improvements for the building side of improvements.
That helps both parties then, if there's county and the tribal development.
Yeah, I think it's just that question of, and it sounds like, yeah, this is the site. So go ahead and think we're putting in, I'll just say close to around 6 million. And then so we can, try to leverage that to grow it to 12, 15, 18. Kind of, what would the county need for this? What does the Grand Ron need? If for some reason this doesn't work, what could this look like in terms of then that purpose-built community space?
And when last time we met with the tribes staff, that they said, because the sheriff's office asked about their grant program and some of the community investments they make into communities where they're located. And they said they just would need to submit a proposal and have an idea and come before them and say, this is what, because they have both their business side and also their foundation side. So it sounded likely to be open, especially if their council is in favor of the project of considering something on the foundation side.
I think there's just a lot of ways to leverage different buckets of money for this.
And we talked briefly about timing too, that it's not years, it's the amount of money. And you talked early in your presentation about potentially just letting the agency close early and allowing it to develop on its own. And what I would encourage council to do is, just as a private citizen, that, takes advantages from services from those other tax agencies, is that if you get this developed, then close it and let those small parcels develop on their own and let the school district and the soil district and people like that start having the money again.
Well, that's essentially what would happen if we spend essentially the bulk of the resource left. The agency would be closed down. We'd still collect the money to pay back the bond and admin it through the closeout, but there wouldn't be anything really left for other sites, which for the most part, they probably will just develop as they are going to develop.
When we were talking,
Magnet.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if this is built, then it's like, oh, yeah, Wood Village is hopping.
I mean, I think for the board and council, you remember when we weren't going to underground the PGE lines east of 238th, how we had $700,000 of bond money, how we struggled to find enough projects that were impactful and meaningful. You know, we did the solar compacting trash cans, we did the rapid flashing beacon, we were really racking our brain of how do we spend $700,000 on without a catalyst site. And if it's not this site, then what is it?
Dollars versus 700,000.
Yeah, I think the total incentives on the byway were just over a
Just
million.
over like 1.1,
That was like
1.2.
6 or 7 acres, and that's larger than all of the sites that Greg highlighted combined.
I think we've got a good direction of like, yeah, let's put a large carrot out there with the emphasis of, yes, you love this. And, you know, I think a lot of people do. And if that doesn't work, this is fine with the community aspect to it for some of those carrots. I think if that captures a summary well enough, I'll obviously write it much better than that to the Grand Ron. But I think if that's clear, that's the direction out. This project is more just like high level
Concepts.
kind of, is that what you're willing to invest in for the community?
And any incentive agreement would have to be approved by the Urban Renewal Board before it became official. So this would come back.
Probably in several iterations.
Because that's one thing to remember. You don't actually have to give them, right? It's designed to, urban renewal was designed to overcome blight. And so you were incentivizing them to develop places that would never develop on their own. One could argue, that this would develop on their own. I'm not saying we shouldn't pay them the incentive. I think the incentive will be key, particularly to getting the public safety part built. But yeah, that's something to remember is that the agency never actually had to give.
Looks like you got a thumbs up.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you all very much. And just Urban Renewal, you are free to go, but you're also free to stay and listen to the senator's presentation.
Yes, with that, we'll close the Urban Renewal Agency portion. Again, you all are released from your duty or are able to stay.
Normally I stay for the.
No worries.
I'm hungry.
Thank you.
Good night. With that, we'll invite our legislative upstate, Senator Gorsuch, and will your chief of staff be joining you, or will he sitting in the back?
Well, good evening.
Evening.
How are all of you?
We're doing good, thank you.
Good. So, first off, this is my staff. Introduce yourself. Jason Hitzer. And Jason is how I managed to get things done in lovely Salem. Lovely Salem. So, and of course, I'm Chris Corsi. Glad to see you all tonight. I understand we've had some difficulties with our schedules meshing. And now next week, we're going to start our 5-week short session. So it would be even more difficult after this week. So I'm glad to be here tonight. It's good to see you all. And I guess the main thing is I want to kind of tell you about some things that we've been working on and also find out what sorts of issues and concerns you have. One of the things we can say for certain is that it is definitely, it's a trying time period. And we do not have all of the answers for everything. And as I know, for all of the cities in East County, everybody is struggling with this. It's kind of strange that it's about 4 years ago, we were talking about surpluses, right? And we had money from the previous administration, and we had go ahead and tell us what you legislators would like to do with your money. I mean, it was a marvelous time. But what we see is that things change very quickly. And so right now we are entering a period of uncertainty. And it is definitely not the flush moments that we had a few years back. So we also know, as I heard you talking about when I came in, that there continue to be all sorts of challenges for the state and for East County. And I think one of our big challenges in the legislature, and that's true for Ricky and Zach and I, is to make sure that East County doesn't get forgotten in this process. In the past, we know that East County has had problems staying, that too, staying out and staying, visible and continuing to advocate for the needs of our citizens. And I think the three of us have done a good job of that, but it's always an ongoing battle. Unfortunately, we in East County get lumped in with the rest of Multnomah County, especially for many of my colleagues from other parts of the state. And it wasn't that long ago that, I was talking about some of the challenges that we have in East County, and Eastern Oregon legislator said, well, what are you complaining about? You're in Multnomah County. And we said, well, there's two Multnomah counties and we're in the other one. We had a state economist a few years back, I'm sure you've heard about this, who said basically if you divided the county 82nd or I-205, one county is doing very well to the west. One piece of the county to the east, not doing well. And unfortunately, although we've made some improvements, that's continued to be a challenge for us. And so I think, especially at a time when resources are very short, we have to keep pushing our position. And all of you in the four cities have to keep hopefully joining us and, raising the chorus in terms of the needs that we have. Unfortunately, with the poor end of the county being where we are, we have many more needs. And that's, by the way, that's not to say the rest of Multnomah County doesn't have needs, but there is a geography to this, and we're in a much more serious situation. Now, once in a while, nice things happen. We have a library that's about to open on Division Street. I have a relative who she said, what are they building a library for? What do they need that for? It's like, libraries are more than just books, but they are also books, and they're computers and all sorts of resource tools. And so sometimes people don't understand, what do we need that for? I was in a Ways and Means meeting with my coach, and he's from up east of us. We're talking about the state library, and he said, well, you could cut that. What do we need the state library for? And he said, because we have Google. I said, it's not all on Google. And it's also about teaching people to think and to use information and to process things. And fortunately, he was actually willing to go, I hadn't thought of it that way, and changed his tune. But there are still a lot of people that think because we've got our little phones that we don't need that research training and capability. So it's interesting. The one good thing, by the way, in terms of, we know that TriMet is going to make cuts. And I know that they have to make cuts. But can I gloat for a minute? Is that all right? Okay. So we spent years saying to them, you need to extend the Halsey, but was it? No, it was the Gleason bus. We need to extend that Gleason bus further east than Rockwood and tie it into to Mount Hood Community College. And they finally did it last year. And I noticed that there's cuts coming except to that line. That line is going to be spared. In fact, maybe even expanded. So every now and again, something good happens. And of course, it goes right along the edge of your city. And it connects all of the kind of the students that are north of the MAX system. And, it's previously it was, well, you'd have to commute into MAX and then take a bus or take the train and then commute back to the college. And so this is, I think, a good positive change. So we will be, like I said, we'll be getting to work next week for 5 weeks. It's our short session. You probably know all about long session, short session, 2 months or 5 weeks versus 5 months. And so we have a much shorter time period. It's really designed to deal with things that can't wait until next year's long session. And what we have to do is deal with financial things. We're supposed to just deal with financial things. But take a look, and what you'll see is that all sorts of things creep in there, including things from some of our leadership who have just told all of us only 2 bills for you. And then they've got some big giant bill that they're championing. So it's a challenge to rein it all in. We don't currently rein in all of the bills that can occur in the long session. That's about 5 months. And if you look, you will see that we try to run, well, I think we had the most bills we'd ever run last year.
Yeah.
What was it?
I think it's just like.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge number of
Like
bills.
50% more than.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Talk about it. I mean, it's almost like we're addicted to running more and more and more bills. And what we really need is to be cutting some of that back and saying, look, does it really make sense to run at as many bills as we do? It's good in the short session because we only get 2. Committees get 3. And then our leadership folks get what?
I think.
Okay.
Senator, what are the items for the short session?
Well, they're supposed to focus, we're all supposed to focus on fixing financial things. Spending is certainly something that comes up. We always have to adjust our spending because of either we didn't put forward enough money for something or we put too much. And so the idea is to balance everything back out. The other thing, though, is to keep from overloading the system. And so that's why we only have 2 bills each. But if you think about it, 2 bills each in a legislature that has as many people as we have, that's a lot of bills, even just the two. So that's why you may have a stellar idea and then come to Zach or some of the rest of us and we'll go, oh, well, maybe long session, but we've already committed to our two bills. And most of the time, the bills have happened a long time ago, even though the deadlines have been more recent.
So there are bills that have previously been debated and
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. But no matter what it is, they all have to go through that same process. And that's why we try in a 5-week session to limit everybody's bills down.
or should we expect reductions in funding to cities and to county and to, I know what's happening to school districts, but, or at least anticipating.
Right.
So are we going to see some
Well,
cuts?
I sit on general government in Ways and Means. And what we are looking at are some cuts to all of these areas of Ways and Means. And so general government and all of the other ones will have some reductions. What we're trying to do is put the least necessary things first. But if this goes on for a while, if this goes on, let's say it continues into the next session, we will end up doing some pretty substantial cuts that are deeper than what we are currently.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not a reduction in revenues so much.
Right.
We've seen decent revenues. It's the federal government not following.
Right.
They've already made.
And by the way, not everything that we've been funding needs to be funded. Let's be fair about that. But I would say a majority of it is pretty important stuff, especially, and I'm not in this area, but when you think about health and human services, there's a lot of very serious need there. And if this persists into another biennium, so another 2-year cycle, I think you will see some pretty substantial cuts into things like that section of Ways and Means. So the one thing that Oregon has worked on for a long time is to use the federal funds for Medicare and Medicaid for expanding the number of people that could be helped with those programs. And it's worked pretty well. We have up until this point done a pretty good job of giving medical coverage to pretty much everybody, but that's not going to last if this pattern that we see now from the federal government continue.
Is the federal government money for public safety being held up?
I think that there is some that is being held up. I think really when you think about any of the federal government money that we are used to counting on, all of it has, or much of it is, under greater scrutiny. And so I don't think you can say, oh, well, that's public safety, it'll never be touched. That's probably not true. So that's why 2 sessions ago, oh, do you want to save that park? Okay, great. Go ahead and do that. And today it's like, do you even have money to operate parks? So it's very, very, very different.
I think, with Jason, we've had numerous conversations. I think for one, at least talking with Greg and Seth, the big thing that we are kind of needing some assistance on how to navigate, and would appreciate your guys' support would be around an ambulance service plan for our area.
Oh, yes.
That, alone, impacts in a variety of ways our communities, right? And so just having the appropriate amount of response for our area, one that is, in a meaningful and designed way to again serve our community, I think is huge. And so we've had, initial conversations, and we're hoping that we can continue building on that and reach a solution, because again, as you mentioned quite well, east of 82nd, I mean, it's under resourced, but it's really it's time that there is a huge focus out here and investments are made to, I'll use the word correct, what hasn't been done in the past.
Definitely, it's been underinvested.
Yeah, so I think that for us, I think that's a huge opportunity to collaborate and yeah, maybe not for this session, but for sure for the long session. And then, as we're talking public safety, as much as folks don't want to talk about it, property tax reform also.
Right.
Understanding that, counties, states, I mean, everyone's kind of restricted from what the current property tax structure, limit us, but the service is still there, the need is still there, and we still have to provide it.
That doesn't evaporate.
It doesn't. It's actually growing, and as you can see from hopeful opportunities that we might have to expand on multifamily homes, that need grows even more, and it's continuing to grow. So I think, some type of conversation, collaboration amongst that, I think are huge opportunities again for the state as a whole as well. So.
Well, and we know that the homelessness problem hasn't gone away. And we know that the property tax problem hasn't gone away. We know that police and fire, they're dependent on a decent sort of funding system from the property tax system. And the one thing that several of us have been pushing for is, and so far they're wonderful people, but our leadership has been apparently unwilling to take that on. And that, I think, if we took on the property tax situation, would go a tremendously long ways to make cities much more whole than they currently are. And the one thing I will tell you is that certain cities, there's a big city. It's down here. You know the city that's this big city?
Well, there's two kind of over.
Yeah. I mean, but Gresham's really little compared to. But what kills me is they made out, well, I shouldn't say like bandits, but certainly the city of Portland did very well for themselves beginning in the 1990s, when housing prices were dirt cheap. I had a group of students and we did a study of some of the Southeast Portland homes in the early 90s. Some of these, and we're talking about the big Victorian houses, they were worth $20,000, $30,000. And we looked at them again at the end of that decade, and they were up in the $80,000, $90,000. And you know what's happened since then. But that didn't happen out here. And so our taxation has not been able to keep pace with what Portland has been able to do. Now, Portland would say, oh no, we're in a terrible place too. But when you consider that you have a real offsides kind of situation between what the city of Portland people could afford and what people could afford out here, which is why I have long advocated for reset on sale. Now, we know why we passed Measure 5. We didn't want people priced out of their homes. Absolutely not. That's a terrible thing. But what if, and this has been done in other places, what if you only raised the taxes to a point that is the norm for that tax bracket. What if you raised those, but you didn't do it until somebody had moved out? So for instance, a lot of elderly folks who have moved out, but they weren't forced out of their homes, but now they've moved out and it can be reset to a property tax that makes more sense. That would put more money in the coffers of Wood Village, Gresham, Troutdale, Fairview. Unfortunately, Portland, I think, did really well, and the rest of us not so much.
Well, I think, again, I think that's something we are interested in, and we, at least I will put myself out there to support any way possible. I'd like to open up to other council for questions, comments,
And
Senator.
for the next long session, that would be an ideal time to try and do this.
Yeah.
All I can say to that is that every school district, every city, every county there is no question that that support is there.
Yeah.
But it's going to take some push.
Right.
And hopefully you can do that, not in a short session, but
No,
prime that 5-month session. And we have a business manager right here in the village that's been out doing that with agencies, and he knows the whole game pretty well. So all we're asking for is an opportunity to get him in front of you.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, one thing I get so tired of is people going, oh, that'll never pass. Oh, that'll never pass. You don't know until you actually try to pass it. And quite frankly, I think there are plenty of cities and school districts and all of these other entities outside of places like Portland that would support this kind of a change.
Again, if you can get support from the state, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter about Portland, but the majority rules here. And so I think we don't got to get everybody. We just got to get the numbers.
Yes.
So
You can't do subsidies for property taxes without the, and that's one of the issues, because you've got houses in Northport and their property taxes are the same as somebody with a 500,000, and it creates a distortion in the market. It does all sorts of things, and most every other state that has had similar limitations like the 3% per year have done reset on sale, and as a result, they've been able to kind of do other special things and help and do some means testing and stuff like that, so people aren't priced because of taxes, but we don't.
What we will need is pressure from all of these districts and these cities focused on our leadership in the legislature, so that they understand that this is not an isolated thing. This is a really serious thing, and we can't continue to operate as we're going.
It's a statewide constitution.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It would have to be. And you all can't continue to take the taxation hits that you take. And that's one way. I'm not saying it's the only way, but I actually think it would be a pretty straightforward way to turn some of this around.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for coming, updating us, and also hearing kind of our some of our stuff here as well. And again, let us know how we can support, especially in efforts like this, that is really an impact for our community as well.
Well, at the end of the session, to the end of the 5 weeks, we should get together with everybody that's interested, and I imagine that's a lot of folks in East County, and talk about how we might structure something that we could try and push through the long session.
Yeah, good.
I would love to do that, and I would love for you all to have more resources The final thing I'll say is I'm fully supportive of fixing the fire district problem. You don't have a say, even though Wood Village, Fairview, and Troutdale are very much a part of the Gresham system, but who has the say in everything,
Mhm.
right? And yet I can't say enough good things about the folks that work for Gresham Fire. They saved one of my houses, second house we lived in. We lost the top story. And if it hadn't been for them and their prompt response, we would have lost the whole house. And, you know, we know that they do a good job, but this piecemeal
Mhm.
sort of way of doing things, I don't know about you. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think it really does need to be a district.
I think that's we are totally in alignment with that. And, you know, we are looking, in continuing those conversations
Yeah.
with all 4 cities. We are pretty determined that a district is the correct solution. We're just trying to identify what the process and how to best get there.
Right. And that's kind of the minefield that
Yeah.
you find yourselves in now. But let me know if we can help in any way.
We will.
We have a good relationship with the fire union and Gresham Fires,
Perfect.
their leadership. So we'd be glad to help in any way we can.
We'll keep that in mind. You know, we're also for the city of Wood Village, you know, again, potential looking at a safety levy to help us bridge that gap. And so I'll be reaching out with, you know, kind of other ways that you all could support, and would really appreciate you saying that you would support us as well.
Well, and I'll tell you, Zach and
Reese.
name, oh my God. But Zach and Representative Ruiz and I, we are always interested in things that the community brings up. And we just want to do everything we can to make East County really work better and better all the time. And whatever we can to help you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. So let us know if anything comes up. And otherwise, thanks for listening.
And have a good
Thank you.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you, very much.
Now, but it sounds like.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to discussion of the BOAC update with our finance director.
I think it's off.
Test. Oh, there you go. Sorry, so the light wasn't on. I thought Greg had pulled my microphone from me. BOAC update. So I was hoping to give you a more comprehensive update tonight. I'll just do a quick recap. So the Bureau of Emergency Communications provides the 911 service. We have a seat on their user board, which is kind of a governing body that directs both operations and finance and administrative details, because City of Portland serves the sheriff's office, the ambulance, Gresham Fire, Corbett, Southeast, all of the public safety partners that operate within Multnomah County. And over the last I shouldn't say more than a few years, we've been talking about changing our cost allocation. We did vote on changing that so that AMR, the private ambulance company, pays for the dispatch service they've been receiving. The user board voted that in at our October meeting. We just met last week. I gave an update to that, to the user board. The 5 mayors sent a letter on October 24th to the city of Portland, because while the user board is an advisory board, ultimately the city administrator of Portland has to approve any of the changes that we pass. So the letter from the 5 mayors was to him saying, please, here are the issues that we've been experiencing. Here's why we feel like this is the way forward. Can you please do that? County sent their own letter in early December saying that we're all mean and the changes are unprecedented and we've blindsided them, coming at them all the way back from 2019 when we first talked to them about it. It was completely new to them. And so the complicating factor in kind of trying to get this resolved is the city administrator for Portland retired in December, and then the new city administrator, Raymond Lee, was coming on board. I talked to Bob Causey, who's come to you a number of times. He helped manage that transition and put forward a recommendation to the new city administrator, but the county chief operating officer and the new Portland city administrator were getting lunch this week to talk, and that was one of the issues that they were going to talk about was how do we proceed forward with this, and how do we make sure that this is something that serves everyone equally and fairly. So we need to hear back on that before we know what we're going to end up doing. So I was hoping to have this all resolved by our January user board meeting, which was last week. But they're also this Friday, I'm going to be on the interview panel for a new 911 director. So the Portland's had a couple of key positions that they've been focused on trying to turn over that has delayed us getting an answer back on the letter that the 5 mayors sent over to the city of Portland. So that's the update. I was hoping to give a resolution rather than just an update, but that'll have to wait for a future meeting.
Which was the 5th mayor? Is it Fort?
Maywood Park.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
We're not the smallest city in the county.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Yeah, I'll keep banging away at it. By the county, well, real reason, but whatever.
And we did kind of this is an issue that does plan to what Jairo had highlighted for was ambulance service plan, which the county has done a report on the ambulance service plan, and they've released it. It's not just done; they're letting people look at it now. It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting read. I'd encourage you all to take a look at it because it says some interesting things about the criticality of response time. Whereas we're telling people it's very important for medical issues to get someone there quickly. The report says it's not that important for an ambulance to show up. People need it.
It's our fault that 911 is not better and that municipal fire departments need to do better. It's not the ambulance fault or the county's fault. And we need to do more.
Oh, and 911 dispatchers, they need better trained.
I'll quickly just also mention, as Senator Gorsuch was here, and we have reached out to them in trying to figure out how they can push this. And so we were going to make a legislative ask. They've asked that we've find an alternative way to kind of resolve this issue. And we said, you help us find that way and put it on their court, letting them know that we've done our part as a good partner. I think it's others' time to put in the work. If something doesn't get resolved, we won't be shy to make a legislative ask.
Especially with, we're having to spend a lot of time and effort on fire. And the biggest part of that is driven by medical call explosion and the lack of response resource from the contracted provider of AMR and their reliance on the fire department to show up. That shifted a huge workload from what used to be private ambulance company to municipal fire department. And when we talk about, when we talk to our partners at Gresham Fire about workload and, being out on 2 calls, it's not, very rarely is it 2 fire calls that they're having to be called out on at the same time. It's usually they're at a critical medical call waiting for an ambulance when they have to get pulled off to a fire call. And that creates, as you guys are well aware, that creates service demands for fire departments that then they pass the bill on to us, and that's where things get a little hairy.
And we're also, having this conversation with our district commissioner as well. So he's in the know. we need to push on him to push on the other commissioners on, you know, the board that he represents, and understand that this is not just our problem as Wood Village. This is a regional problem as East Multnomah County again. So
You layer that on top of what we just heard from Senator Gorsuch about the cut in public safety. I mean, there is absolutely no reason why the BOAC board sends it. And now you get a report that says, you know, we really don't need it because our response times are fine. And then basically the fire department's doing our work for us.
And
layer,
the ambulance company doesn't get enough money for responding to calls. That was the
Yeah.
other Friday.
it's so layering that, I know it's just angry thinking about why the AMA don't, you know, why we don't collect their call fee like we do everybody else. So
And we are still reaching out. We're still hoping to find a third way and a compromise. I know that the chair came out here at I think our first 3-city meeting 18 months ago, to when we first started talking about the problems that we had, and said that, you know, we posited to them, you know, the system we have is not efficient, where we have City of Portland doing the 911 dispatch, the individual fire departments responding to both fire and medical. You've got a contracted ambulance service provider that's run through county health. And then you've got low acuity medical calls that are being addressed by the homelessness services department. This is a very fractured system where there's a lot of duplication of effort and a lot of money that's could be better spent towards providing services. And we need to come together to fix it. And still working on that 18 months in. So.
well, Seth, thank you so much for the update. We'll hope to have better, something better next time. All right, we'll go ahead and move to discussion of 75th celebration.
All right. Thank you all very much. I'll try to be relatively quick, you know, help catch us up on time. This time for your thoughts. So I know you all discussed this in December. We touched on it at your last meeting, but we have some newer ideas, new concepts. Just want to work those over. So again, our 75th birthday is this year on February 9th. As part of this year's budget, we had $7,500 to celebrate that. It was how it's being celebrated we're still trying to work through. We've talked with the Parks Commission, who had some ideas, but nothing, you know, really stuck. Brought some stuff to you and said, yeah, keep going. So we've put together, and by we, I mean Caroline. You know, we know we need to place some banners anyway. They've some have been wind torn and damaged. So we thought we could do some real special ones. A copy of these are in your packet. Kind of some historical photos. You know, I don't have all of them listed here, but just kind of history of the city. So I just want to pause here and say, would you like something like this as part of it? We could put up for, again, these tend to last, ideally, you know, you get 1 to 3 years, give or take. So is this something that resonates as part of our 75th?
I like it.
if it's bright enough to see. I like the idea of this, the history. And I know you got just, these are samples. But I know those banners, they start to fade.
Yeah.
And
that's why I said like 1 to 3 years.
Yeah,
You know,
and if
not-
you can, whatever we do, if we go forward with this, bright colors.
Yeah.
There consensus from the rest of the council on yay or nay? Again, I don't think we gotta decide which ones, but just that.
No, yeah,
just
Caroline
the
built a
idea.
lot of them,
Yeah.
and we would,
Yeah, I like the bright colors too.
okay, bright colored banners, excellent. Touched on this at your last meeting, the idea of a calendar, whether it is a pre-made one like you see on the right, or it's not a blank one, but I forget what the technical term is to call it, fill in yourself calendar.
Good idea.
So a little pricey to print. I think it was in your packet. We got an estimate how much it would take. I want to say it was, yeah, they're $14 a piece. So not inexpensive. So you could either do a calendar or, because again, Caroline worked up essentially 12 cover pages like this. Maybe you just put those into notebooks or something. So you have like a standard notebook and then put some fun history or a fun cover over it, or find another way to repurpose her history archiving. But thoughts on calendar, whether it's kind of a fill in yourself, a pre-made, or trying to convert it into some kind of notebook thing.
How many calendars were we looking to publish if we were to go that route?
I mean, it depends, you know, how many other event components we have, but at 14 a piece, you're $1,400 per 100. So, I mean, you get somewhere 300 or 400 is using a good chunk of the budget.
Did she price the alternative option of like Notepad or?
I don't think we priced that. I think there's a couple permutations we could use with that. Like, do you just buy kind of notebooks and just insert pages ourselves, or do you just, I mean, it's, you do different covers, maybe like a front and back cover for the notebook. So you're just printing that part of it.
What about magnets?
Could definitely add that. So in a few more slides, I talk about like the swag at events, usually like pins, stickers, magnets though.
Way to go,
That's what-
Counselor Tan.
That's what my kids and I collect when we travel and we put it on our.
Yes, we can definitely do magnets.
I think the calendar image is really good. But most people use their phones or their computers for everything. So it's like, who's
It's
really going to
expensive.
use this? And for the cost at $14, I'm like,
Yeah. I think repurpose, because she did really good work developing these. I'd love to find a way to repurpose that somehow.
Maybe that could be when we do our newsletter, that could be part of,
Kind of a throwback page.
yeah, one of throwback page or background or something like that.
You can also use these on magnets.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's where I was kind of going with it, was with the
Because
magnet.
you can do those nice,
Nicer,
You know.
larger size.
yeah, and
And then
that would
put
actually
City of
be
Wood
really cool.
Village. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at these two, and my brother's real estate broker. He gives me a calendar every year. It just sits there and I tell you, know what, I love them. I wish we could all go back to these. And, we
Well,
didn't,
I guess I'm just old school because I still use mine.
I know it. I love it, and
I'm moving everything.
yeah, I'll get my Franklin planner out and use that. But what about these on, I don't know how much, I mean, those glasses are, we've had glasses before
Oh,
that had etched things on there. I don't know how much they
Yeah.
cost, but
a lot. Well,
a lot too much
at the moment,
well, if they're prohibited, then,
I think
Can't do it.
short term, we haven't found a lower cost yet.
okay.
I have a
Well,
couple of thoughts, but they're not baked yet.
I like the pictures too. How can we get them out there so people can see them? We'll put them on the banners.
Some of our own banners, I think we can, I can work with Caroline
Well, you
and
could put
brainstorm.
our stores, any businesses, if we had a poster or, something like that. Maybe hang one of the, put a banner, put it in our retail stores or places like that. We could put things.
I mean, I think this could be more of a limited version, and obviously price would be a big thing, but like, even if there was like 1 or 2 copies of a book here at City Hall would be the.
Well, and that was another thought, maybe just, I think like a Shutterfly or Snapfish, you can
Yeah.
like basically take your photos and then make a book out of it. So we could basically take these photos, maybe even have some more that didn't make the cut and
Mhm.
just kind of make a little picture book.
Yeah, and then again, that could probably, live more here, right? And so just again, be a piece.
And a copy of the
history.
state library.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
state library and the new Multnomah County Library.
You could, some of these pictures and stuff, of course, you could put it on our reader board on our sign coming in and.
Yeah, the resolution probably wouldn't work very well because they were already kind of lower quality that we, got copies from, and then to blow it up, jumbo size, maybe kind of grainy, but we can.
You say, put the 75th year and.
Oh, yeah, we can definitely do some things. Yeah. Celebrating 75 years of being awesome.
Right.
Okay, just made that note. Another thought, and I'll get, if we want to do maybe a separate standalone event, but just the idea of using the night out to maybe add just a few targeted specific things. Cake, you can get a lot of cake, especially Costco cakes are big, and you can get a lot of that for a few $100s. In your report, Caroline did some research. There's a local company does trolley tours. So you can maybe partner with the Tractable Historical Society, have the trolley at the night out, because there's already a lot of guests. So like, hey, just do a little tour, little historical talking tour of, 30, 40 minutes of around the Wood Village area. And people get on, go back to the event. Are there additional toys? And do I dare say, do we try to bring back like the parade for this 1 year? And I can't promise, we could say, yes, bring the parade back. I will make the promise I will make the ask of council said this is important to both county transportation and the sheriff's office, but I can't guarantee we could do it.
And I will push. I will push because I think that would be a piece of history, right?
Wonderful. Yes. The
I
parade's
think-
wonderful.
I mean, I remember that's when you were mayor, we did the parade and then we did it with a bunch of youth and they still remember that. So I think the impactfulness, I think
Yeah.
is real meaningful. So I think that is a priority of ours to see
Parade
how
has
we
been
can
the
do something.
history of the village because we used to do a 4th of July parade.
Did we
And
really?
it started from the store and went through all of the streets. And it was us kids on our bikes with cards and
Yeah.
crepe paper and stuff.
I think this would be something down Wood Village Boulevard, down Arata,
Yeah,
not too terribly
No.
large, but
pretty simple.
need to close the road for 15, 20
Yeah,
minutes.
well, in the parade, maybe, and I think the historical trolley tour, that's interactive for people. And I think that would be really a exciting thing for people to do. And you have a narration.
Yeah.
I mean, the historical trolley could be in the parade and people look at it and then they know they can take a ride on it. So
Greg, you remember when Mayor Fuller fell on top of me getting out of the pickup truck?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't recall that at all. That wasn't being workers' comp conversation question. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Volunteer work.
We got a ladder after that.
You were just getting out. Yeah, I was standing there. So
Yep.
I basically saved his.
You saved the mayor. That's how I remember it.
Yes.
You
No, it's fun.
Okay, so yeah, we'll make the ask for the parade and it sounds like, yeah, do the trolley.
Uh-huh.
Some other ideas, it seemed like a standalone event could be just difficult, especially if thinking summer months, there's already a lot going on and this may just not draw a lot of people. We certainly have tried to put out there getting stories from community members. I mean, certainly Councilor Gothard, you seem to have a lot that you'd be good to share with. So we can, if there's still interest in we'd love to hear from long-term community members, kind of their stories. We can make a bigger push for that and try to arrange a date and time where they can come and record those stories.
That'd be good.
And then certainly we can just maybe make some special pin stickers, magnets, and have those at just kind of all the events.
Yeah, we need those.
Else, other thoughts? Does this seem to maybe, we'll probably get close to the budget with just, those items, but does this seem like?
I think maybe like a special design, like for the 75th year. Like I don't want to call it such like a logo, but at least like something that stands out. Like
Something special.
yeah, that could be like put on the banners or just for
Kind of be put on a lot of stuff through the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Like, hey, we're celebrating 75
like
years.
75th, something I think really, Caroline has done a great job as figuring out how these images come to be and things like that. So I don't know, maybe some thought around that and use that as something to utilize.
So we just put on a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I think this seems doable.
So we're not doing a standalone event, but we are going to incorporate that into our night out.
So yeah, the
Right.
trolley into the night out with the parade ask, and I'll make it'll be a stern ask, a push. And And then, yeah, special kind of swags at all the events, plus then the banners, and then look at making then a couple of the books.
Yeah, okay.
You could do a pre-order or an after order on the books too.
Oh,
So
that's
people could look at
true.
it at the night out or whatever.
And
You
just,
have a-
would you want one? And then we could tell people where they could maybe
Yeah.
even order it.
Yeah.
Are coffee cups as expensive as glasses?
No, coffee cups are easier. Well, white coffee cups are easier,
Yeah.
which we don't like white coffee
you
cups
have-
because they stain easier.
Well, I'm still looking at something that, could be handed out. People would have it in their homes. What about coffee cups? If we have the badge that is going to be created,
Or reusable cups, maybe that's a little.
that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Oh.
about.
Yeah, like the reusable water bottles. I don't really know how many people, do this, grab it, and then it ends up, in the counter or.
Yeah.
Up in the trash.
Yeah, water bottles, we get so many of them every place you go, but a coffee cup. That's what I'm talking about.
Are you talking like a mug?
Mug.
Or are you talking about like a travel cup?
No, mug. I'm talking about that. I have and I guess I'm fixated on this a bit because I have a souvenir Greyhound racing part, Stein.
I'll say it was a Stein, wasn't it?
Yeah, and my granddaughter found it over in Vancouver and she knew we were doing some antiques, so she gave it to me, but I have that. But I don't know how much they cost, but I know I would buy one if we can't afford it. If we made them, I think people would buy a coffee cup.
Coffee cups tend to be, I'm probably get it wrong because inflation, I haven't priced coffee mugs in a while, but with, a logo or design, $5 to $6 per. Kind of depends on how many you order at a time. Kind of the more you order, the less per unit, but that seems to be about the ballpark is $5 to $6 per unit.
Well, I mean, I think people would like it, but right now I'm a voice of 5, so I don't know. You're not gonna hurt my feelings if you say A minor. That's really.
Yeah. Well, that's all we collect, and I don't have any glass cups in my house because I only have coffee mugs.
Yeah, what?
We don't own glass cups for drinking. We use coffee mugs because that's all we collect. And
Well,
what we
that's what I'm
collect-
saying. Coffee mugs. I'm
Oh.
not saying glasses.
I think
No, what I'm saying is that I think a lot of people get an abundant amount of
Oh,
coffee
okay.
mugs.
All right. That's true.
Well, what we
Um,
could do, we could price out everything else and then see what's left in the budget for some sort of mug drinkware.
What I was thinking, you
Yeah.
said souvenir, and the bookmarks. Remember
Yeah.
those? Why don't we use the photos and then do bookmarks? Those could also be a
I
DIY
just
thing.
remembered the bookmarks.
I use it.
Good,
Bookmark
And I'm going to
magnet.
Tennessee also.
good.
So bookmarks with those photos,
That-
it's
Hey,
relatively cost.
on it, Counselor Tan, because now we're reinforcing reading too.
There's
On a
kids that are
Kindle.
Gonna be going to our thing.
Yeah. Where do I put this?
What is that? What's the book? What do
Hey,
you?
they sell that at Barnes and Noble. They sell.
No, they do.
bookmarks.
I gave those, every one of my grandkids got that same bookmark.
Actually, if you add a ruler to a bookmark, they become very useful.
Yeah,
I mean,
they can utilize that bookmark however they choose.
Okay, so we'll definitely we'll look into swags and some special swags. And then, yeah, the parade, I think will be the biggest one. I'll start working on that right away.
Yeah,
I'd be
that's
kind of fun
exciting.
that,
With all
Charlie,
the stuff.
I envision it
Having the
and
parade.
hanging with
Oh,
a
yeah,
bunch
yeah,
of,
yeah.
maybe some historical stuff and make it look like it'd be fun for kids to ride in it and.
Because even adults, because if we get part of the historical society over there, they know the history of the region and have a nice, again, 20-minute
Sure.
tour around the area.
We get some old people to ride in there too.
People.
No, I just said.
He said all, he said all, he said all.
And they can get off that. These are old people that remember Wood Village from the other days. Go talk to them. They will tell you stories that are not true.
He's gonna stop.
If they can remember.
All right. We will go ahead
Dr.
and
Neil.
move to discussion of community meeting recap.
All right, Gimme, I have a few slides on this because I thought there's a nice, should share it. Couple things just to highlight and reiterate. I will just say overall, for those who couldn't attend, it was nicely attended for Wood Village. There we go. So we had 8 community members who hadn't attended any other previous meeting. So 8 new community members, a couple of counselors, and a couple folks from Gresham Fire. So just a quick background for those watching from home or hearing from the first time. So trying to, over the past 18, 24 months, we've done a lot of work around fire and EMS. And now we're trying to share that work, the outcomes and next steps with our broader community. So we did a round in November and just another round just last week. So the one last week really, copied a lot from the first one in November, since we didn't get a lot of just at-large community members, but we were able to add some very specifics around a potential levy in May and what that means, what it would pay for, and what it may cost. And really the purpose is just, again, to inform, not to, we're not advocating, but it's just, here's what's happening, here's why it's happening, and here are the next steps. So again, you've all seen this plenty of times. I actually still have it up on the walls. But, property taxes used to pay for public safety, expenses and more. Well, it stopped doing that, and then increases to fire. The gap just really, really grew this year. Is going to continue to grow into the future. As we've said, we're looking into a regional district of some kind. That doesn't mean it won't cost community members any less. It just means we might be able to lower our property tax a bit than just cover police and 911, because fire would be separate. We've looked at a proposed levy rate of $1.35 per thousand. That closes the gap for, a 5-year period for the average single family home. So the average assessed value for single family homes is $221,000. Now, again, that's assessed value. That's not market value. They're very different. We had a nice couple slides to remind people what is assessed value, it's not market value, and where they could find their assessed value. So with the average value at $221,000 at $1.35, it's about $300 a year or $25 a month. Manufactured homes are a little different. They're treated as personal property, but the first $50,000 is actually exempted when the county taxes them. And then space rent is limited to 6% per year for large parks, which is 30 or more units, and smaller parks are 7% plus inflation, so a total cap of 10%, which is the same for rental units as long as it's 15 years or older, has a 7% cap plus inflation with a 10% overall cap. Why we bring that up is because just because you may rent space in manufactured home park or may rent your home, doesn't mean you don't necessarily pay this indirectly, because landlords, they got to pay the bills too. So we just wanted to let people know the state has caps on your rent increase. And then we provided this information to people at the meeting where they could look up their assessed value. The Multnomah County property tax directly is a little less user-friendly because you have to put in your address very specifically versus Portland maps. You could either enter your address or just look it up geographically on a map. So we did provide that, and saw a lot of people scanning that and looking up their values and things, and really appreciative of, again, it's assessed value, not market value, and where they could look that up. This is the draft of some graphs we're creating, because we had a lot of people say, well, if you don't get it, what does that mean? Well, again, so this is our current gap. Now, the amount we spend on parks, events, planning is all of that gap. And so to say, well, we'd have to cut all of it, not in year one, certainly, but if we don't get additional resource or fire doesn't go into a district, even if you start cutting all of those services, you can see the gap grows to over $250,000 in just a few years' time. So at that point, it's like, yeah, there's always a bit of margin from property tax. When you think all of general fund and all the stuff that funds from it, yeah, we had a bit of a margin that was gone this year. Well, even if you cut all of parks, take away all the subsidies to planning and building, cut all the events, the gap just takes away even what margin could be left. which is why we need the additional resource, but it's also harder to, when people say, well, specifically, what does that mean? It's like, well, we haven't had those conversations. Hopefully we don't, but that's just the funding amount we're talking about, is it funds all of those buckets. So at the meeting, there was again, a lot of interest in like the cuts, what specifically would be cut, which was again, hard for us to say, well, we haven't had those conversations. We just know what the amount currently pays for, but how their cuts may be rolled out, how it changes, we haven't had those conversations. And wouldn't need to happen even next year if it doesn't pass, because there's savings and things, but at some point, you have to cut spending at some point. Again, the guests really like the information about assessed value and market value, how to look up the information. And there wasn't necessarily, opposition or, fully supporting, but there was a lot of interest in how it could increase the service level. When they asked, hey, does that $1.35 add that new station? We said, no, that just covers the current. But if we're then getting the resource to cover this gap, we can invest then also in helping fund that new station, both capital and operations, until we find this regional solution. So there's just a lot of interest in, fixing the gap. And, I don't want to call it willingness to support it, but I don't want to say they weren't necessarily directly opposed to it either. So just a lot of people think just interested in the information. I know Councilor Tan, Councilor Minor, you were present, so feel free to say, if I misinterpreted anything. But in terms of next steps, so polling has been completed, but the information, they're putting it all together. So it'll be a big part of the retreat. Also, a big part of the retreat will be more discussion of the levy, what amount do you want, the ballot language, all of that good stuff. And then that consideration would be on your February 17th agenda, because it needs to go to the county by the end of February. And then it's, I think, March 19th is when everything has to be fully submitted with the appeals period and everything. So we're also working on updating the website so we can send it to the Secretary of State's office to basically say, yes, this information isn't biased. You can have it, if you actually choose to refer it. And also developing some educational posters as well. That was feedback we heard when we gave the talk in Spanish. It was, we don't necessarily need another meeting right now, but we'd love some kind of questions to these answers, and thought posters would be a good way to help spread that information. So we're developing drafts of those now. Hopefully in the next week or two, we can get those out as well. So what did I miss from the meeting, and what other questions do you all have?
I thought you did, Greg, you did, a very nice job. And I liked the graphics, there. I did talk to two people, two community members after the, and, both of them, while one was, distracted a bit, but both of them eventually came around with response time. And so I think that, again, we keep hearing that, but that's what those two walked out of here with, was the response time message.
Okay, well, that
And
was
Greg, I asked, and I don't, I don't know if there's time for another meeting, or if you feel like it's a worthwhile to advertise another community.
So most likely what will happen in the future is much like when, whether it's the school district or Mount Hood referred something, there'd still be community meetings, but they're more led by like a board member. Staff's there to answer, specific technical questions, but they're more led by the electeds, because once it's referred, there's just less staff can do.
Yeah. And is the referring, is it when we send it down there, or when's the deadline that staff?
Once we send it to the county, we pretty much have to
Once
just,
they receive that. Okay.
we can no longer we have to change how we talk about it.
Very
So between now and then, if we think we have anything that we want to mail, can we produce it now in language that would be of work for after that? Can we use staff time now? to get things ready that we might want to do after this is referred?
I mean, short answer is yes. I'm just not sure what more there is to mail that we haven't already put out in newsletters or in these conversations. Even the meeting last week's on our YouTube. I'm just not sure what we would
Can we buy mailing postcards now?
to do what with.
Mail?
But with what information that we haven't already.
Well, no, I'm just saying, can we produce those? Can you buy, could you buy already loaded postcards with postage?
I mean, short answer is, could we buy them and put postage on them? Yes. I think the complicated answer is then what's printed on them and what was their purpose and when do you send that
Well,
out?
we might use what we use right now, but do those mailings right prior to the election. I want to be able to, we're not going to raise $10,000 to win this, win this levy.
Mhm.
We got to use everything we can right now prior to when this deadline is, February 17th. And if we want to do handouts, knock on the doors, hand things out. If we want to do a postcard mailing, don't forget to vote. If we're going to target people that are potentially yes voters, can we create those? Now, I don't know what it would be right now, but I just know you have to remind people to vote.
So we can send out a factual information, so we can still do that after it's referred. We can also do more generic, like make sure you register to vote and what's going to be on your ballot. We can still do that as a city. We just can't advocate how to vote.
Well, I'm saying, can you put an advocate now? So preload a mailing reminder that would advocate to vote and make it now and pay the postage.
I guess the question is, if the city printed that now, does it have to be mailed before you
Yes.
submit, or could we do it after, even if we purchase it now?
Because you're still taking the action after the fact.
So it has to be
But
mailed before.
We could, it's still in May as a city, say, make sure you vote. This is on the ballot from the city. And this is what it means. We can send that.
Like as a reminder.
Right, but as a reminder that
Can't be in-
this is on the ballot.
Yes.
This is what it means.
Yeah, we can do a
Vote.
reminder.
Yes, to vote. We just can't say vote yes,
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, okay.
but we can send something that says vote.
Okay, so we need, yeah.
And this is on the ballot and this is what it means. We just can't say
Like what
vote
we-
yes for it.
Yeah, we need to have those ready and.
And we can have a bigger discussion about this at the retreat.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess you've answered the
Attorney there.
and we can title it so that it would not be.
Correct. Advocacy piece. We could remind people to vote and the importance of voting, but we can't just say vote yes or vote no. I mean,
But,
Right.
yeah, and yeah.
Okay.
so there's still things the city can do. It just has to be fact-based.
Okay, but I'm going back to my other question because we got to have some more conversation about what we can print and get to people that is advocating.
And I think having this question at having this conversation at the retreat with our, attorney being present, Praxis, and they can help us.
Right, us.
Well, and that's the right place, but I'm getting kind of stares at, we don't think we need to do something like that. We need to advocate afterwards.
We do know.
Yeah.
It's just where this has to stop and where you
Yeah.
can pick up is the line.
And we're not going to have money.
Right.
To do that. So let's use the city money. If we want some advocating literature that we're going to send out afterwards.
But he's saying that
We
once it's
can't.
published, it has to go out before we send it.
So they
So it
can't-
has to go out before not March 19th.
So let me see if I can clarify. I think the word we're getting tripped up on is advocate. That's something that we're, as a city, prohibited from doing on anything political.
And
But
that
we can inform and remind them to vote, but we can't advocate for or against the position.
And we can, like, for example, we could produce this.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're going to
Is that
submit all,
fact-based?
we're going to submit all of our informational materials through the Secretary of State to try and get those approved so that those can be reused as our factual information. And we can send those out after February 17th.
Which is why we're also trying to get our website approved, because then anything on the website, we could then reproduce, send out, put out in all kinds of means and methods.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Because I'm still not getting the point. But I mean, I get all the advocation and the separation, but let's move on.
Else from then the meeting last week? All that is, there will be a lot, the first half of the retreat is this topic. So I think we'll have a lot of time with the more people in the space to answer those questions and put stuff together. Okay.
On to the Director of Finance report. Or
You
Public
don't
Works
want
report.
Public Works?
Public Works. Sorry.
Hey,
We've been hyping Becky up all week.
that's what we've been doing. I know.
So just pretend I'm Erica. And I'll make this short and sweet since Greg took so long. So this is annual recap of Public Works projects for the past year. So for water projects, we did a few different service line repairs. The most notable one in the photo up here, this is from the Walnut water leak that we had found a few months back. We also did the curb painting, hydrant painting, replaced, actually put in risers for the Troutdale sand and gravel meter. That was the big 4-inch that was too far down for us to get to. So staff did that. Saved us quite a bit of money on that one. And we also put in 3 sample stations. And this last picture here, it's kind of hard to tell. That is our the new VFD for well 3 that we just recently upgraded as part of the SCADA system. It's kind of like the computer central that runs all the components of the well. And then we also did some refurbishing at our facilities. So like at the Reservoir 1, we did a bunch of clearing around the reservoir and added some rock and stuff. Then for sewer, we did some lateral repairs. So the one in the upper right is Maple. It was on Maple sewer lateral repair. We, as you know, did the new crosswalk on Wood Village Boulevard. We also did the replanting at the bioswale here at City Hall along Halsey. And then the last picture there is, that was that storm drain that we found on Walnut that was completely full of roots. So they took out, I can't quite remember how many feet that they replaced. And they also fixed the sewer lateral while they were in there. Was the bulk of it. And then for the park projects, we replaced a lot of boards on the trails. Did the community garden, the new little book library, and there's also the, is it vegetable seed, flower seed? Seed library is what it's called. We did the restriping here in the parking lots for both City Hall and the park. The new ADA pathway, additional picnic tables and everything in the plaza right outside the splash pad. And then it's Public Works staff. So it looks like we have a lot of people, which we really don't right at the moment, but we're working on that. More news to come. I don't want to spoil Erica's surprise. Kyler's past his 6 years. He's our engineering tech. Mary got her cross connection specialist class. Since she handles the permitting, that helps her out a lot there. Jeremy got his got promoted to utility worker 2. He got his wastewater collection 1, cross connection specialist flagger, and a re-engineering award. And then Miguel had joined our team in September. And he is doing great. We're happy to have him on board. So for development, the byway is almost full. Buns, Burgers, and Dogs is open. Fish Forever Aquatics is actually open now. They opened January 10th. It's actually really nice in there. You guys should take a look. They have some very exotic fish.
They have glow-in-the-dark fish.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a really nice shop in there. And then the Chincha Bubble Tea and Noodle House is still in process on their permitting, but they're moving forward. So that is almost fully complete. Fred Meyer and Walmart completed their remodels. We all know Chick-fil-A is open. Grove Tech is still working on some upgrades. And of course, we did the park restroom here, which has turned out great, way better to maintain. Everybody seems quite happy with it, so it's going well. For water consumption for the year, you can see, first one should say 2024. We produced a lot more water this year. I'm going to attribute that to the splash pad because Erica said that used like over 200,000 more gallons this year. So we must have had a pretty hot summer. You can see our system loss is still kind of creeping up. We are still working on leak detection. We have found a leak area over by the byway. Getting to the actual leak may be challenging because it may be tied to the water system before the overpass was built. So
It could be more than 30 feet deep.
So we're working on avenues for how to figure out exactly where it is and what we can do about it. And that is it.
A packet that was handed out. It says cloud permitting. What is that?
Oh, so she didn't have that on the slideshow. So cloud permitting, the state required us to put an online permitting system. The state has a system that is available free of charge. It was very problematic for us in how they operate the system, and doesn't quite work with our code regulations. So we had worked on that and we found this other company called Cloud Permit, which for a pretty minimal cost does online permitting. So we did all the work for that. That launched in July. So people have been able to process their permits online, upload their plans, get their issued permit, make their payments and everything. We also purchased the code enforcement module. So staff, when they're out and about, well, community can create code complaints too, but staff can also, there's an app on the phone, they can go out, put in the address, write their notes, upload photos, and that creates a case that we can then track. And then the last piece of that, it's kind of called land use, but we're going to use it. We're using it for our sign permits, our road permits, our service connection forms, and that will be going live next month.
The other issue with the state system, while it was free, it required some additional agreements with like banks and user charges for payments that just didn't align with what we do. So that was an issue. And then it would guarantee issue certain permits that actually we require a quick land use for like an outdoor heat pump or AC unit, for example. We need to make sure it's not within setbacks. They just said, well, you know, you just have to cancel it until you do that. I'm like, well, if someone puts it in on a Saturday, does a permit, they think they're all good, puts it in, then we come back on Monday, say, no, you're not. Like, I'm not being put in that spot, and they're not going to be put in that spot.
And the state's charge for,
You're stealing my thunder.
oh, go. I'm trying to. hype you up.
Because the credit card piece was really, so they basically, right now we use a third-party credit card service and the customer pays the service charge fees. So the city, they make you go with one where the city would be responsible for all of those credit card charges. And in addition, because they accept the state surcharge, which is money that we hand over to them, on that, we would wind up having to pay the credit card fees on that too, with no deduction.
And
So
it was
there was a
like-
lot.
The state system was like double what our third party was in
Yeah.
terms of the fees that they charged. And we talked to Jeff about suing the state because we didn't believe that the agreement that they entered into with that provider was legal or authorized under the statute, that we couldn't choose our own provider. And he said, you'd spend a lot of money and probably not get anything.
Yeah.
Out of
You
it.
may not still get the outcome you want.
Yeah.
But you would
Yes.
spend a lot of money and a lot of time.
Becky put a lot of work into finding a third party provider, and it was a heavy lift. We could have very easily just said, okay, we're going with the state and passing that 2 to 3% on all of our building fees and SDCs onto the customer. And we said, that's
Not how I want to do business.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, but the new platform, it's, you know, it's geared towards smaller governments. And they're just starting to work their way into Oregon. So they've been adding more Oregon clients right now, but it's working good.
All right, thank you.
Unrelated to the permitting, any interest up there where the rock was? Is that
Oh,
vacant? You getting any interest?
I have reached out to the property owners on that one. And again, I'm going to be a little careful on what I say because, you know, the potential litigation involved, they called it a midnight move out. So the tenant just left. And so there's ongoing like liabilities and settlements that need to be done before essentially the space can be reactivated. Because I had a couple of cool leads I thought would be nice there.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, they got to kind of solve that.
Mm.
Which it could maybe be concurrent. We get the right, you know, maybe tenant that could maybe help resolve some of that. It could work out, but it's really between then that former leasee and those liabilities and the property owner. Good news though, on the former Starbucks location is we've had an inquiry on that site that seems very promising.
Good, good. I drove by there and I saw people moving furniture out of the rock one afternoon. So I got out and are you moving in or you're remodeling? They were just loading the trailer.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything to you?
No, they didn't tell me.
There's a lot of notices on their door if you want some light reading.
The what?
A lot of notices on their door.
Oh, yeah.
I thought like a Potbelly would be nice. Or the Honey Baked Ham was looking for a location in this region. I thought would be nice.
Yeah.
But there's some other steps to go through first.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other
Alright.
questions from the council? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, now we'll move to finance.
Mr. Mayor, Council, including your packet is the Finance Director's report through the December 31st. We got our property tax money in the bank and we're looking good on revenues for the rest of the year. So free to entertain any questions that you might have.
Good job.
Trending lines all going in the right direction.
All right. go ahead and move on.
Beat you on time.
And beat that one. Saturday after next, we would usually try to get your packet out end of this week, but because of that meeting Friday, it'll probably be like Monday midday is when your retreat packet will come out. But again, the bulk of it's on fire, so you're well versed on the details of it. Quick update on our wetland park project. So the new design firm is restored our love for that project and has really started enhancing it, not just taking that design and just making construction plans. They're updating, they're enhancing. The piece though that they mentioned is there are going to be bridges needed over the ditches, kind of where either Wood Village Boulevard or Raticide is, and that could be a very long lead time item with engineering. So they suggested add engineering now. So at your next council meeting, because I'd pushed the total contract over 75,000, you'll see a basically contract award for that. But more information at next meeting, but it is coming because we thought that'd be better to get that done as part of this design work, the design, engineering, and potentially even fabrication of these pedestrian bridges now, because it could take a year to do. And the very last one, any food preference or non-preference for the retreat on the 7th?
I will still go there. Greg, you pick the snacks.
I just ask, I ask every year, just something a little healthy.
So Chick-fil-A?
Snacks.
Like veggies.
I want fat.
Okay, so I'll just pack my lunch.
Just kind of order a little bit from this restaurant, a little bit from that restaurant. So that way for like, hey, there's a nice amount of snacks. So then for lunch, it's like, oh, I want some of this, or this sounds good. We can just order a little bit from several places and have a little buffet.
What if it's easier for, is it Caroline that's gonna order?
Oh, there's DoorDash. I mean,
Okay,
Yeah,
well then
I
that
like
sounds
that
like a
idea.
plan.
Is the noodle house going to be open?
well, right, not in 2
Probably
weeks,
not.
no. But Chick-fil-A is open. We can get some sandwiches.
Yeah.
Find a place with salad.
They have kale salad there.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
What kind of salad?
Kale.
Oh, my God.
It's
I
actually,
heard 2 servings of that, one for
I'm thinking
Tan and one for.
the outlaw cave.
it's actually really, no, it's really good, guys.
Double salad. Got it.
That's all you're having. No, just
I
kidding.
do want nuggets too. Need the balance,
That's
okay?
all we have.
Yeah.
We get grilled nuggets.
Nuggets and
Kale. Done.
some blue cheese dress.
So unless there are other questions,
Just quickly, we don't have our attorney on tonight, so we'll kind of skip that one, but, so I have put on your, where you sit, kind of a little, as we're talking about fire and, where staff basically draws the line and things of that nature. Counselor Minor and I have been discussing the potential of creating some type of PAC to help push this forward. This letter is really geared for me, or I can share this digitally with you all if you guys feel comfortable reaching out to folks in a lot of fold. We're going to need support financially, as Councilor Minor said. And so there are some asks out there that I've put out to help, with donations. Obviously, we're going to need endorsements. Obviously, we're also going to need, boots on the ground when that time comes. And so this is something together that I put that I'll be reaching out to local elective, local businesses, legislators. I've talked to the fire union, their president, and they're on board to assisting in any way possible. Again, and so this is just something that to kind of start building that coalition when time comes, because we know that we ourselves cannot do it alone. So we're going to need as much help and support as possible. So that's one piece there. The other piece, earlier this month, I discussed that the 4 city mayors were going to put out a joint statement that unfortunately has not came out yet. We're hoping that it will come out soon. The city of Gresham last week,
Mhm.
put out a resolution in support of public safety and immigration reform. I've kind of talked to Greg, I've kind of had other discussion with other folks, and I think it might be an opportunity for us to put something out together ourselves as well. I will be sending out the resolution that the city of Gresham put out, just so you guys can read it. That doesn't mean we'd copy that word for word, but I think there's a lot from there that we can borrow and make it our own for the city of Wood Village. That wouldn't be something that wouldn't come out until our February meeting, which is the 17th. And at that time, we can have a open discussion amongst council, but it's something I think it's our responsibility to do and that out. So I'm just giving you a heads up that we'll be sharing that for you all to read, and then kind of for the February meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
That was it. Just a reminder again, we have the council retreat on Saturday. We don't have our first meeting in February's, but we will have the second meeting, but it's moved up a week, so it's the 17th, February 17th instead of, it's the third Tuesday of the month. Any other council?
We're gonna get our packet, but it's 8 o'clock
What's the date
on the,
retreat?
8 a.m.
It's the 7th. The retreat's on the 7th. Greg mentioned probably Monday.
Monday, you'll get the packet.
Okay.
Midday
yeah, okay. 8 o'clock probably arrival or
in the morning.
Yes, all right.
Oh, for the retreat. Gonna get you, Mike. Not 8 a.m., but yeah, 8 o'clock retreat. Yeah.
yeah, I'm talking retreat.
Got it.
We're not all on the same
Yeah.
page.
All right. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Okay.